Hey, this is Mike from the Logan and the Hobo RV Adventure channel. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to give you an update on the Jawbone Canyon BLM camping area.
Logan and the Hobo, best friends forever.
Back in the fall, we went to Jawbone Canyon BLM area, and it was my first trip out there. You may have seen the video, and you may remember me talking about my camping philosophy while I was out there. And specifically what I was talking about is, I don't know if it's definitely me. I don't know if other people experience the same thing, but I have a hard time going into a new place, and what I want is to find the coolest place, but it's hard for me to explore around to find the coolest place to camp, especially when I'm towing the big trailer. My tendency is to just stop at the first available spot that I find. What I did on the first trip to Jawbone is I gave myself permission to just camp in the first spot that I found, and then we went and explored, and we found other places to be able to camp. And it's about 2.5 hours away from my house, so it's definitely a doable weekend trip. It's going to be one of my regular wintertime trips because it's very nice out there in the wintertime. And so, having been there before and having already explored the area and knew good places to camp, I was comfortable going out there again. And I was arriving on a Saturday afternoon on a holiday weekend, and I was worried about it being overcrowded, but I was pretty confident I was going to be able to find a spot. And so as we were driving in, there was a lot of people there, and so I was starting to get nervous, and I started to panic a little bit, and I was going to pull into the first pretty good spot that I saw, and my wife said, "No, this isn't great, let's keep going." And so we kept going, and I ended up finding a great spot secluded by ourselves, and I'll show it to you here in a couple minutes. But first I want to talk more about exactly where it is. Starting out in Mojave, we're looking at the Google Maps, and we're running up Highway 14 here north of Mojave. It's about 10-15 minute drive north of Mojave, just south of Red Rock Canyon State Park. There's a turnoff off Highway 14. It's called Jawbone Canyon Road, and the set of buildings right there, that's the visitor center. It's okay. So Jawbone Canyon Road runs west off of Highway 14, and it's paved pretty much the whole way through. That white strip is the aqueduct. That's where we camped the first time. It was okay, right there at the beginning of the canyon. We'll keep moving down and show you some of the bigger sites there are to camp. There's lots of places both north and south of Jawbone Canyon Road to camp. Right here is an extremely large area to camp. When we were there last weekend, there was a gazillion RVs there. Same with this spot there. Lots of places for if you're camping in a group, lots of places to camp. Here's where I was getting a little panicky when we were driving in. I knew we were getting close to the end and all the spots were full, and so I was going to grab just the first spot that was available, but Amber was right. It was better to keep going. So we go down here to the end. The paved road ends, and it's blocked off there, so you can't go any farther. Just before that is this right turn here, and the right turn turns into the dirt road. And then just a little ways up, you'll see this spot right here, and this is where we camped. It was awesome. The Jawbone Canyon area, it's BLM, Bureau of Land Management, so it's public land. It's a 14-day camping limit. There's no fees. You don't have to pay anything to camp there. There's nobody to check in with, nothing like that. And it's the normal BLM rules that apply. When we go out there, we do a little bit of shooting. I took my boys out there, well, my oldest boy and my nephew, back in, I think it was late October, maybe early November. And then my girls wanted to go, and so I took the whole family out there just last weekend. It's January. And we went out there, and it was the first time shooting for the girls. We had a good time. Well, you may have heard me talk in other videos about my off-grid electrical system setup, specifically my batteries, and how great I think they are. So I have two 6-volt golf cart batteries that I use, and they're 232 amp hours each, and that gives me a pretty big battery bank to use while we're dry camping. And typically I run them down about 10 or 15% state of charge every day, and that's using all the lights and the furnace and watching several hours of TV and all that stuff. And then in the morning, I run the generator to make coffee in the morning and also recharge the batteries. And it usually only takes about an hour to charge the batteries back up, the 10 or 15% that I depleted them. Well, on this trip, the batteries weren't charging. I ran the generator for like an hour and a half, and the batteries only charged like 3 or 4%, so I was a little bit concerned about it. I started doing some research on the converter. The converter is what takes that 110 volt power and converts it to charge the batteries, converter / charger. So I was doing some research on that, the troubleshooting, to see if that was maybe the problem. That was my first thing, and as I was looking in the manual, it said to check the voltage on the back of the converter. Well, I didn't do that because I didn't want to pull the converter out. And it also said to check all your connections, including the ground. Well, sure enough, I went out to the tongue of the trailer where the battery grounds to the frame, and it was loose. So I'll show you that in a minute. But I was watching my Victron battery monitor right here, and the Victron battery monitor was giving me the voltage coming in, and I could see it's supposed to be if the converter charger is charging the batteries. If it's plugged into generator or shore power, it should be producing 13.6 volts, and it wasn't. The most I saw it produce was like 13.2 volts, and then sometimes it would drop down to like 12.9 volts, and so I was definitely getting a voltage drop there. So like I mentioned, I went out and I checked the ground on the battery, and I'll just bring it around and show you, see if I can get a good shot here. So I know there's a lot of wires, but this is the ground wire coming off the battery, and it plugs into the frame, just screws into the frame right here, and that connection was loose. I could wiggle it. I tightened it up, and it seems to be working fine. I've ran a couple of tests, and the batteries are charging back up quick, so I think that was the problem. One other quick thing I wanted to mention about the batteries. So we camped for 3 days, 2 nights, and the kids were watching quite a bit of TV, like maybe 6 or more hours of TV a day. At least one kid was in there. And like I said, the batteries were not recharging. Maybe I'd run the generator for a couple hours in the morning and they were recharging maybe like 2%. Well, in that 3-day time span, even with the batteries not really charging very well and all that usage, we only got down to 70% state of charge. And so I was pretty impressed with that. It's 2 6-volt golf cart batteries. If you do any kind of boondocking and you only have a single battery, I would highly recommend upgrading to the 2 6-volt batteries. The first place we camped when we were in Jawbone Canyon, it was okay, but it wasn't the greatest. Like I mentioned earlier, it was basically the first decent spot that I saw. Well, the second place we found was quite a bit better. It was really nice. It had a really nice view. I already mentioned it was desolate. There wasn't really anybody else around us, and so I was very, very happy with it. And so I'll show. I'm not going to make you wait anymore. I'll show it to you right now.